ABC's political director Rick Klein joins me now, along with Galen Druk from ABC's 538 for more. Rick, the president is touting his legislative and economic accomplishments and calling out MAGA extremists. What does that tell you about his strategy going into this campaign?
Yeah, look, it's a twist on the soul of the nation theme that he launched last time, but it still has at its core some of the same features. And it's featured prominently in that in that launch video is the sense of Trump and Trumpism that's out there. He talked about that as an existential threat during his last campaign to the nation. So much has happened over the last 4 years, including COVID and the recession and the war in Ukraine. All of this chaos that he brings together, that he tries to portray as the existential threat, it's still there. And quintessentially, it's still Biden being Biden. There isn't that much different about his launch this time versus last time. The messaging, though, has changed slightly to take account for the fact that he's now the incumbent president. He's still running, though, against some of the same forces that he squared up against last time.
Now, Galen, polling shows 70% of Americans, including a majority of Democrats, did not want Biden to run for re-election. And one of the big concerns here is his age. How difficult is that going to be for him to overcome?
Look, it's going to be difficult, but nobody runs for office in a vacuum. And so voters will have to take into account who he's running against. And Biden is 80, and half of those who responded to that poll saying that they didn't think Biden should run again did say that age was a major issue. However, Trump himself is 76, turning 77 in June. And when given the option between those two, if Trump does actually win the nomination, and he's favored to do so at this time, that will make it perhaps a little bit easier to persuade voters to get on board with Biden. You know, half of Democrats saying that they don't think that Biden should run for re-election. Look, those folks are going to get on board when the rubber hits the road. I mean, I asked, viewers, how many Democrats do you know who are voting for Democrats regularly are going to say, well, I was going to vote for a Democrat, but Joe Biden is 80 years old, so I'm going to vote for Trump instead, right? It all comes down to choices.
Now, Rick, now that Biden has formally announced, what does that mean for the Republican presidential hopefuls who are hoping to take him on?
Well, they, for once, get to just respond to Biden as opposed to Trump. They're actually pretty happy with the contrast, and they've all been out with statements talking about what a disaster they view the Biden presidency as. And they also, as Galen points out, they don't want to run in the vacuum. They also don't want to run exclusively against the front runner on the Republican side. They like the matchup, and the portrait of Biden's America that Republicans are talking about is quite a bit different than the one that Biden himself is describing. And that's the part that makes this a much more difficult challenge for Biden, is that you're not now running against something that's a known quantity that people generally dislike. You are yourself a known quantity, and the reality of things in your own country are what you have to defend.
Galen, how much does it help him to be an incumbent, and is there anything about that could actually hurt him this time around?
It's a good question. So there's a historical record. There have been 45 presidents before Joe Biden who have been president, and only 11 have lost re-election. So there are definitely advantages to running as an incumbent, even in an environment where folks are fed up with the politicians in Washington. You know, in 2022, every single incumbent senator won re-election. And Biden will be able to go around the country and tout things like the bipartisan infrastructure bill. You know, he'll be standing in front of new bridges being built, new tunnels being built, and he'll be able to use his bully pulpit as president to try to persuade people to stick around and stay with him. So there absolutely are advantages. You know, the disadvantage, as I mentioned, we are in this era of discontent with Washington. And so outsiders and folks who challenge the status quo can be popular. So that's something that Biden is going to have to contend with, maybe particularly on the left flank of the Democratic Party that is kind of maybe fed up with moderation.
Yeah, yes. With every politician we see in this stage of the game, you have two kind of opposite factions to take into account. On the one hand, he obviously has Republicans to worry about, but also the aspects of his own party that are divided. So a lot more to come here. Galen Druk, Rick Klein, thank you both.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.